Abandoned beside her alien mother's lifeless body, human stranger became the girl's only hope. Jason Mercer walked alone across the burning ruins of Proximab, a dead planet under two cruel suns. Broken towers and fallen alien buildings stretched, for miles, all silent and empty. Moved slowly, tired, with a metal detector in his hand that refused to make a sound. Another useless day, another empty hunt. Jason used to be a soldier long ago, but the wars had taken everything from him. Now, he survived by scavenging dead worlds for anything he could sell. He trusted nothing, cared for no one, and expected disappointment every day. His boots kicked dust and broken stone as he searched through the ruins. No treasure, no technology. Nothing worth the fuel it took to get here, he muttered in anger, and smacked the detector against his palm. Then suddenly, the device screamed to life with a sharp, loud signal. Jason froze. That sound meant something rare, something valuable. He followed the signal toward a collapsed alien building, his pulse, pistol ready in his hand, inside the dark ruins. The detector pulled him deeper through narrow halls covered in faded alien writing. The signal grew louder with every step, and Jason heard something else, a soft sound, crying, a child's crying. His finger tightened on the trigger as he turned the corner. In the center of the room, beneath a beam of broken sunlight, a small, blue-skinned girl knelt beside a body covered in a stained blanket. Her shoulders shook as she cried. When she looked up, terror filled her bright blue eyes. She clutched the blanket and shouted for him to stay back. Jason slowly lowered his weapon. The girl was thin, dirty, and clearly starving. She had been alone for days, maybe longer. Jason's heart pulled in two directions. He could walk away and leave her. That was the smart choice, the safe choice. But if he walked away, she would die alone beside her mother's body. If he stayed, his life would become far more dangerous. The girl refused to leave her mother. She cried harder and held the body tighter. Something inside Jason cracked. He cursed softly, stepped forward, and lifted the trembling child into his arms. He carried her out of the ruins, leaving the treasure behind without looking back. On his ship, Jason gave the girl food, water, and clean clothes. When he scanned her with his medical device, his hands began to shake. Her DNA was not normal. It was changing, adapting. Strange glowing patterns under her skin were not just markings. They were living data. She was immune to the sickness that killed her people. The truth hit him like the child was not just a survivor. She was the cure. She was carrying the future of her entire species inside her body. Before Jason could even begin to think what to do next, his ship alarms exploded with warning sounds. Someone had placed a tracking beacon on his ship. A hunter vessel appeared behind them, fast and powerful. A woman contacted him through the screen and calmly told him the truth. The child belonged to the Pax Genetica, that claimed legal ownership. Over her body and her DNA, they offered Jason more money than he had ever dreamed of, enough to live rich for the rest of his life. Jason looked at the frightened girl beside him and understood the real choice. If he accepted the money, she would be cut open and turned into a weapon. And if her power was not protected, entire worlds could one day be erased. He rejected the offer and ran. From that moment on, every powerful force in the galaxy would hunt them both. Jason carried the small girl into his ship as her quiet sobs faded into weak hiccups. Her thin arms wrapped tightly around his neck as if she feared he might disappear if she let go. The ship's door closed behind them with a heavy metal sound, sealing off the dead world outside. Jason had spent years calling this ship his home, but now, for the first time, felt like someone else belonged here too. He placed her gently on the worn couch and stepped back, unsure of what to do next. He had faced soldiers, pirates, and monsters across the galaxy, but he had never cared for a child before. "Are you hungry?" he asked quietly. The girl hesitated, then nodded. Jason handed her a nutrient bar and water. She ate like someone who had not eaten properly in days. Each bite broke something deeper in his chest. After she finished eating, he showed her the small washing unit and found a clean shirt that hung loosely on her thin frame. When she returned, her blue skin was brighter beneath the dirt that had once covered her. Strange glowing patterns shimmered faintly along her arms and neck.
How?
Jason stared at them longer than he meant to. When he scanned her with the medical device, his breath caught in his throat. Her body was different, altered, built to change and survive. "Am I broken?" she asked quietly, watching his face. Jason shook his head. "No, you're special." The words surprised even him. Before he could say more, alarms screamed through the ship. The sudden sound made the girl flinch in fear. Jason rushed to the controls and read the warning message. A tracking beacon had been planted on the ship's outer hull. Someone had been watching the ruins. A black hunter ship appeared on the screen, moving fast. A cold voice contacted him and made an offer that could buy him a new life. 5 million credits in exchange for the child. Jason barely listened to the number. He was watching the girl instead. Her small hands shook as she gripped the seat. Her eyes searched his face with silent fear. Jason made his choice without thinking, cut the engine suddenly, and sent the ship spinning toward a deadly asteroid field. Rocks shattered across the hull as the hunter's ship struggled to keep up. Fire burned across the controls, and warning lights filled the cockpit. But Jason pushed harder until the enemy fell back. They escaped, barely. The ship was damaged badly. Jason had no choice but to head to Helios Station, a dark trading hub filled with criminals and smugglers who asked no questions. He disguised the girl with a hood, mask, and skin spray to hide her glowing markings. He told her to stay close, very close. On the station, strangers watched from every corner. Jason felt danger everywhere, while his ship was being repaired. They hid in a small, dirty room. A warning came quickly. People were already asking about a blue-skinned child. Not long after, armed hunters came to the door. Jason stood tall and lied without blinking. He claimed Federation authority. He used fake ranks, laws, and threats. Somehow the bluff worked. The hunters backed away, confused and uncertain. Later, in a quiet corner of a cantina, the girl looked up at him and asked, "What happens if we escape?" Jason hesitated. Then he answered honestly, "We find someone who can help you. We keep running until no one can hurt you anymore." A message arrived on his scanner. The ship was ready sooner than expected. It was time to leave. But as they reached the docking bay, Commander Narration and a squad of mercenaries were already waiting. The trap had been set. Jason pulled the girl behind a stack of cargo crates as Commander Narration and her mercenaries blocked the path to his ship. The docking bay was loud with engines, voices, and metal footsteps. There were too many enemies. Jason's hand tightened around his weapon as his mind searched for one last chance. "I need you to run when I tell you," he whispered. "The ship code is 7429. Get inside and start the engines." The girl nodded. Fear in her eyes, but strength in her stance. Jason quietly slipped away and triggered a false decompression alarm. Red lights flashed. Sirens screamed. Panic exploded across the docking bay as people rushed for safety. In the chaos, Jason shouted for the girl to run. She sprinted toward the ship as the mercenaries turned and raised their weapons. And then, something impossible happened. Commander Naira stepped between the girl and her own soldiers. She fired first. Jason stared in shock as Naira fought beside him against the mercenaries. Blaster fire filled the air. Sparks burst from the floor. Jason dropped two attackers with clean shots while the girl reached the ship and entered the code with shaking hands. The ramp opened just as more soldiers closed in. Naira ran for the ship with Jason right behind her. They launched under heavy fire, crashing through the bay doors with barely enough space to escape. Alarms blared through the cockpit as the ship burst into open space once again. Jason turned his weapon on Naira the moment they cleared the station. "Give me one reason not to throw you out the airlock." Naira did not flinch. "The Pax created the plague that killed her people," she said calmly. "It was meant to control them. It went out of control." The girl's eyes filled with pain as she listened. Naira continued, "Your mother helped build the cure, but the Pax wanted to turn it into a weapon. She stole the final design and hid it inside you. You are not just the cure. You are the future of your species." Silence filled the cockpit. Jason slowly lowered his weapon. The girl stepped forward and touched Naira's hand. The glowing lines on her skin flickered softly. "She is telling the truth," the girl said. For the first time, Jason believed it. They fled across deep space together, hunted by the Pox but no longer alone. Weeks later, they reached a hidden research station on a frozen moon. Scientists who had abandoned the corrupt systems of the galaxy worked there in secret. They began extracting the genetic code from the girl's living patterns carefully and safely, for the first time since the ruins. The girl smiled without fear, but peace never lasted long. Alarms soon echoed through the station. 5 Pox warships appeared in the sky, descending fast. "They found us," Jason muttered. The genetic extraction was complete, but the process to restore the alien species had already begun. And now, the enemy was coming to take everything by force. Jason stood between the girl and the coming storm. Knowing the final fight had arrived, the hidden research station shook as the first Pox ships entered orbit. Bright streaks of fire crossed the sky as their weapons charged. Inside the station, scientists ran through the halls, sealing doors, and activating what little defense power they had. Jason checked his weapon, his face calm, but his heart heavy. He had fought in wars before, but this fight was different. This time, he was not protecting a mission. He was protecting a child. Naira stood beside him, her face cold, but her eyes burning with quiet fire. "They will try to take her alive," she said. "They cannot destroy what they came to steal. It means they're coming inside," Jason replied. "Good. That's where I fight best." The girl stood nearby with Dr. Travis, the lead scientist. The woman knelt beside her and held her small hands gently. "The code your mother left behind is activating," she said softly. "Your body is becoming the template for your peoples. Return." The girl nodded with brave understanding. "It won't hurt, right?" "No," the doctor promised. "It will just take time." Explosions thundered against the station's outer walls. Pax soldiers poured through broken entry points, their weapons flashing with deadly light. Jason moved without fear, his training guiding every step. He fired, moved, took cover, and fired again. Naira fought beside him, faster than any human. Her aim perfect and deadly. Side by side, former enemies became protectors. The battle lasted longer than Jason expected. Smoke burned his lungs. His arms shook with exhaustion, and more than once, he thought they were done for. But every time he looked back and saw the child still safe behind the sealed lab doors, he found the strength to stand again. At last the firing slowed. The station fell silent, except for the distant hum of damaged systems. Bodies lay scattered across the broken halls. Jason leaned against the wall, breathing hard, his hands trembling. Naira stumbled beside him, wounded but alive. Then the lab door opened. The girl stepped out slowly. The glowing patterns on her skin shone brighter than ever, soft and warm like living starlight. Dr. Travis followed her with tears in her eyes. "It's done," she said. "The seed has been released. New life is already growing." Jason dropped to his knees in disbelief. Naira closed her eyes in quiet relief. High above them, new ships appeared in the sky. But these were not Pax warships. These carried the symbols of the Federation. They had come in answer to the station's final emergency. Call, the Pax forces retreated. Their crimes were exposed. Their leaders were hunted down and arrested. Their power collapsed under the weight of their own lies. Weeks later, the first newborn Azerons took their first breaths inside the station's protected chambers. Small blue hands, soft white hair. Life returned to what had once been wiped from. The stars. 3 months passed. Jason stood at the viewing window of the rebuilt facility, watching the girl laugh as she played with 5 young Azerons in a garden filled with soft glowing plants. Her smile was bright and free. Naira stepped beside him and took his hand. The war was over. The running was finished. The council has approved the restoration of their homeworld, Naira said quietly. They will have a future again. Jason looked down at her and smiled. Guess our lives didn't turn out so simple after all. Returned the smile. No, but they turned out right. The girl ran over and hugged them both. Jason lifted her into his arms, laughing as she wrapped her arms around his neck. Long ago, in the ruins of a dead world, Jason thought he was saving a lost child. Standing there now, watching a new civilization begin. He finally understood the truth. She had saved him too.